How do you use doTERRA essential oils such as the Elevation blend for negative emotions? Well, my mentor Candace is going to cover that in part 3 of the Triumph Over Trauma class that we had here in Las Vegas. And this is really important information to learn so we can all have more emotional intelligence and be more aware of what we're feeling so we can learn from them, because feelings are really just a way to drive us to some type of action, and it's so important we have and make educated decisions in doing that. So without further ado, let's get into today's video, and make sure to watch this one all the way till the end to get all the details.
It's interrupting my sleep patterns. So physically our body starts to respond, and what ends up happening is that we've now formed a neural path in our brain that is becoming the path of least resistance, okay? This is now, we're cueing ourselves. We have these negative emotions. Now our pattern is, I'm gonna have this emotional response where I'm gonna eat, where I'm gonna be sad. I'm gonna go through these habits where I'm gonna continue to disrupt my sleep and treat my body poorly and tell myself these negative things. And I'm gonna continue to have a physical response, which then just proves that the negative thoughts in my head were right. And I continue on this loop, and I continue on this loop. And it's now like my body, it's very efficient. All of our bodies are incredibly efficient. And what allows it to be efficient is following neural paths that have been created that are the path of least resistance. Now it's easy for our body to go through this motion, this cycle. So what can we do to lessen this? And what eventually happens for most people naturally is that we start to distance ourselves from these things, from the incidents that occur, and we're generally able to pick up, but what happens is we have this new level of normal. Now it's normal for me to carry 50 extra pounds because I've told myself these things and I've believed these things, and I haven't broken that particular pattern yet, right? Now it's easy for my body to stay awake late at night because I have set this pattern. And now it's easy for my body, and it even feels weird when I introduce things like dopamine or serotonin, right? The happy chemicals that our body generally makes through exercise, through interacting with loved ones, through connecting through things that we feel passionate about. It feels foreign to our body because that's not the neural path that we have created. That is not the cycle that we have created, and it now feels strange to us to feel happy or satisfied, to feel like we deserve good things. I remember being on vacation with my husband about 5 or 6 years ago, and we were having this great time. We were in Thailand, and we had a bungalow on the beach, and he's in a hammock on the porch of this bungalow reading a book with the ocean lapping at the shore like 20 feet away. It was like paradise. And he puts his book down and he looks at me and he says, "I think I'm getting." And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about? We're in the middle of this bliss moment and you're getting." What do you mean? He's like, I don't feel right. Something's not right. I think I'm getting sick. And I'm like, "Well, what is it? Is it your stomach? Is it your head? Like, what's going on?" And he sat and he thought for a minute and he goes, "You know what? Actually, I think I'm just really relaxed right now." He didn't know. It was so foreign to him that he thought he was getting sick. And that's what happens when we live in stress cycles. We forget what it feels like to be normal, to be happy, to be relaxed. So just like our body can get addicted to these happy things, right? A lot of people, like, there are adrenaline junkies that are out there, right? That love jumping out of airplanes, or you see these videos like on Facebook with the motorcycle people who are doing wheelies down the street, and I'm like, that's not safe. But they are addicted to this adrenaline, right? People who are relationship people, the serial monogamists, and they love that feeling of falling in love, and they fall in love over and over and over again, right? There are physical, people get a runner's high. Have you guys heard of this? I don't know anything about it, but I've heard. I have heard that this happens to people. Have you guys heard about the runner's high? Where they hit this bliss point where you're running and your body releases, I think it's
Endorphins?
Endorphins. It's endorphins. And you feel high, you feel happy, you feel great, and it makes you want to do
I
it
get the
more.
dancer's high, that's what we get, the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels good. Well, what happens when your body doesn't have those things for a long time, it gets addicted to these ways of being. And it can be very, very difficult to break the cycle. So what we want to do for you guys is they call it here roadside assistance, because we're taking the wheel of our emotions, right? And what we want to do is we want to interrupt this cycle, all right? And we're going to stimulate a different part of our brain or our body, and then we will be able to directly affect the rest of our patterns. We'll be able to create new patterns, okay? So when we find ourselves in these patterns, and I could always, after a while, I know what my patterns are, right? If you're connected to yourself, you know, like, oh, I'm falling into this old hat, right? I'm putting that old hat on again, musty and worn out as it is. I'm putting this old hat on again. If you can recognize your cycle, then you have the opportunity to interrupt the cycle, all right? And what we want to do with that interruption is we want to stimulate a different part of our brain. So there are several different ways that you can do this. Some of them, you can physically, I went to a Tony Robbins event. Have you guys heard of Tony Robbins? Has anyone been to a Tony Robbins event? So he has this whole thing where you're in this negative space and you're in this negative pattern, and he yells, "Make your move!" And everyone in this arena, there's like 25,000 people in there doing, some of them are doing like karate punches and, and they're just thrusting their fist up, but he yells, "Make your move," and you're doing something to actually break that pattern. Okay, we are interrupting the pattern that we've created for ourselves. So it could be that you pull a Tony Robbins and you make your move, make your move. He would yell it, oh my gosh, so many times throughout that event. And just like all of a sudden he'd be like, yeah, blah, 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 make your move. And everyone's like, yeah! So there is a physical way. Now, maybe you're in the middle of an interview for a new job.
I don't think you want to go like that.
Might not be entirely appropriate to like, make your move. I don't know that you might get that job. But that is an opportunity. You can make your move. You could do some jumping jacks. It could be something like breathing, doing some deep breathing, meditating, right? But we have to be willing to do this thing right then and there in that moment. So one of the beautiful things about what we have to offer with essential oils is that it's not as disruptive. It's going to disrupt your pattern, but it doesn't have to disrupt everyone else in the room or make people wonder what it is that you're doing, and maybe you don't get the job or you don't do so great in the middle of that presentation. But what we can do is find some scents that awaken us, that stimulate us in a different way. Because again, remember, aromatically, that is directly connecting to the part of our brain that controls our emotions, right? That controls our memories. So this is an incredibly powerful tool that we have right at our fingertips, where we can use it immediately in the moment without making loud sounds or big movements or disrupting anyone else that's around us. So I happen to pick up Elevation. Elevation is a flowery, uplifting, the name alone, elevation, right? It's meant to lift your mood. Not everyone is a flowery kind of person. I personally...
I think I just grew to 5 feet. No.
What's that?
I didn't think you think you missed 5 feet. I'm only kidding, I'm sorry.
I personally am not as much of a flower girl. I do have some, like the magnolia is a flower I'm absolutely in love with.
Yes.
But the elevation is one that maybe it doesn't connect with everyone. Maybe it doesn't connect with your body chemistry. I know that we have tools in our arsenal that will connect with you. It's only a matter of finding which ones connect best with your body chemistry.
This is a
Once
good
we
one
figure
to
it out.
have when you're feeling the mood for sweets, because it's got like a sweet
Yeah.
aroma to it. So if you're feeling the mood for sweet, you can substitute it with that.
Fennel also does that.
No, not to me, I'm talking about this.
So this is the big focus that I want to concentrate on with you guys. And on the back here, there's actually a little chart, and you can feel free, I don't know if we have pens.
I had a pen
But
in my purse.
I would love, oh, you like that one?
Yes.
See, everyone's body chemistry is different. I know which ones are going to interact and serve people the best by how they respond to it. Because some people are like, oh my God, oh, that's disgusting. I never want to smell that again. And some people are like, they won't pass the bottle. They're like, oh my God.
I didn't want half a bottle of her.
Ooh.
I love that
It
smell.
was,
So-
I like it, that is a
What was
nice
that
smell.
again?
This one is elevation.
That
Yeah.
really good.
And so what I would like for you to think about is what are your negative go-to emotions? Let's talk about it. Let's write them
Do you
down.
want one? No.
Let's talk about what,
What did you say?
your negative go-to emotions. So for me, I get really lazy. I get very, and if you're having a hard time, there's actually this emotion chart here. So I would say I become very ambivalent. I become, on this chart, I would say disconnected, bored, disinterested, right? These are the things that I would probably choose. And so, funny enough, those things actually connect to my favorite scent in the emotional oils is